another video. We're here with Kory. He's going to give us a deck profile on his counter fairy deck that he got first place today at our non-meta tournament. And I'll just pass it off to him.
There wasn't very many people. Don't be astounded by that. But a while ago I kind of hyperfixated on this deck, and I made it as. The downside of counter fairies is they don't want to work with each other, but they also want to work with each other, and you kind of got to force them to work, which is, I know makes no sense, but like that's the best way I can describe how this deck works. Yeah, I'll just get right on into it. Starting off, you have 3 Bountiful Artemis. Each time a counter trap resolves, you get to draw 1 card, and the drawing 1 card is it's mandatory. You have to. So, like, be careful of that. It probably won't ever come up. It's a great way to just draw a bunch of cards during your opponent's turn, but, like, he's one of your main ones, just consistency. Next, I run 3 Guiding Ariadne, making it so that you don't have to pay a single life points for Solemn Judgment is a really great ability. And the fact that I don't have to discard either makes a lot more of these counter traps even more viable. Next is I have 2 Minerva because recursion, and it becomes a big beat stick if you activate enough. You activate like 2 of these things and have the regular continuous Parshath card on spell card on the field, giving him an extra 300, and they can be like a 3,000 beater real fast, and he's still recycling, so real helpful. Next, Meltiel. I have run 2 of them because they help me gain back my life points after I've already spent them, and being able to pop 1 card on my opponent controls, and it says any card, so that's really helpful. So I run 2 just because I like to see it. Next, I run 2 Zeradius, and I know a lot of people would be upset by this, but think about it. If I draw into 2 of these in my opening hand, I discard 1 for the field spell, and then I just normal summon the other one, activate ties, and I've got a lock up. So, like, running 2, it doesn't hurt as much as you think, and it's still a level 4 fairy, light fairy, so it doesn't work with Ties of the Brethren in this deck. Next, we have 1 Power Angel Valkyria. Free monster search. Sadly, she's a once per turn, and I have to negate a spell trap or monster effect to get her effect. I can't just activate any counter trap card like you can for the other monsters in this deck, which kind of sucks, but there's a reason why she's run at 1. Big baddie for the main deck would be Sacred Air Knight Parshath. Excuse me. But long story short, it either searches Parshath cards or counter trap cards when it does damage to your battle damage to your opponent. It has piercing, and you can special summon from your hand or grave when you activate a counter trap card by banishing 2 fairies from your field or grave. It's pretty easy to get out. You'll probably special summon it off the Parshath counter trap card though, so no need to worry. Next, run 2 Honest because it's a light deck. Why not? And it's a fairy, so like you can use Ties of the Brethren with this as well. Normally, I'll normal summon any of my fairies, bring out Ties of the Brethren, bring out an Honest, and bring out a Light Barrier statue. Activate Honest effect, return it to hand, so you can protect your Light Barrier statue. But that's the main play I do. And like I said, 1 Barrier Statue of the Light because you can special summon it, and surprising few decks play light monsters. I'm kind of surprised by how many games this card alone has won me. And that's it for the monsters. Onto the spells. There's not very many spells in this deck. I think there's only there's 10? Wow, that's more than I thought there was. Anyways, so 3 Extravagance. The moment I can trade this out for Pot of Prosperity is the moment I will, because Prosperity just works way better in this deck. Next is 3 Ties of the Brethren. This is kind of your win condition of the deck. If you can get the Light Barrier statue out, you can win against a multitude of decks. It just helps you bring out more of your monsters, because this deck has a really hard time putting board presence up. So the 2,000 and not being able to special summon doesn't hurt all too much, so like worth it. Next is 2 Sanctums and 1 of the old field spell. This one can be searched out with Zeradius, and this one counts as this. But since most of my cards need a Sanctuary in the Sky to get their secondary effects, these are helpful as well. Plus the recursion effects off of this, and it also lets your fairy monsters gain 300 attack and defense as well. So like, it's not much, but it's enough to sometimes attack over things. and deal it with if your opponent sets like an Ash Blossom and you can't get over it because your highest regular attacker is about 1800 in his deck. It's kind of annoying. Anyways, Upstart Goblin. I was running Double or Nothing, but it just was not worth it in this deck. I hate to say it. I loved it, but it's just not worth it. Anyways, that's it for the spells. Onto the counter traps. The bread and butter of your entire deck right here. 3 Solemn Judgment. Negating summons and spell trap cards is great. 3 Solemn Strikes. Negating monster effects and negating summons once again is still great. Run 2 Parshath. It summons out your big boss monsters. It's an Omni negate, so like that's helpful. People say that this card's really hard to activate, but all you gotta do is keep a counter trap in your hand, and then you can discard the same counter trap you revealed and pay 1,000 life points. It doesn't really matter. You just pay the cost. You get a big beat stick out of it. You really only lose 1 monster. And worst case scenario, you can probably get that counter trap back later. Next, I only run 2 Divine Punishment because, well, it is an Omni negate for pretty much free in this deck. You still need Sanctuary in the Sky, and if you can't get the Sanctuary in the Sky, this card becomes a dead card in your hand. And then the 1-ups, I run 1 Drastic Drop-Off. It's guaranteed to go off. You can stop your opponent from drawing that 1 card off the top of their deck, and if they have no cards in hand, this card's even better. Plus, once again, it's recyclable, so doing this to your opponent every turn is even funnier. Ultimate Providence, because it's an Omni negate, just as long as I discard the same type of card I'm trying to negate. If I don't have a discard because of my Pendulum monster in this deck, I don't have to negate anything, and I don't have to discard anything, and I can negate everything. Beautiful effect. And then 1 negate attack, because, I don't know, I've been thinking about maybe trading out for a 3rd Honest. I just like the fact that I can negate my opponent's battle and their battle phase with a counter trap. The only downside is I have to wait for them to attack me, but if I top deck into this, set it, and they don't pop it, this card alone could keep me alive and possibly get me other effects that could keep me going. Plus, my barrier statues and my other monsters are really, really weak, so just stopping a battle phase altogether can be worth it so much. That's it for the main deck. You don't want to run too many of one type of card in this deck. It's a very delicate balance, otherwise you'll see too much of one thing. So, like, I recommend tinkering with it to see what works best for you. Anyways, going on to my extra deck, it's just a bunch of rank 4s and links. I'll show you what I got. You can run pretty much anything in this, though. Got Cowboy for Game by burning for 800. It's ironically still works, and it's very funny. Dagusto Emerald, because draw effect. Tsukiyomi, draw effect as well, because you end up with 1 card in your hand a lot, and being able to discard the 1 card, draw 2 cards is really, really helpful. I've actually used this card probably the most in the entire deck. Castel, because as you could probably quote me in any other video I've ever played where you saw me running Castel, if you can run Castel, and you have the room to run Castel, you run Castel. Worst case scenario, Book of Moon. Best case scenario, you get to shuffle a card. Downsize the targets. Silent Honor Arc, another one of those mighty rank 4s from back in the day. It just gets over problem monsters. By the way, this deck is not good against dealing with Dragoon. I should probably point that out. Baguska? I really never go into him, but worth it. Tornado Dragon, back row removal. Number 27 Dreadnought Dreadnoid, because you're gonna go into this guy with it. That's the only point in it. This guy. Otherwise, you have the regular Utopia package on top of that. Utopia Lightning, because 5,000 attack, attacking over anything, and that attacks over Dragoon at the very least, just as long as they haven't negated 2 things. Worst case scenario, I crash into it. I don't really care if I crash at that point, because I'm getting rid of Dragoon, and that's the point. Anyways, the 4 cards that you go in, I've only gone into him when I didn't have anything else to go into. I go into this more often than I think I'd like to admit. And then there's these 2, which searches pretty much the entire deck. Either you search Sanctuary in the Sky, or if you have Sanctuary in the Sky on the field, you search a card that specifically lists it, or a fairy from your deck to your hand. That's a lot! So, like, you want to get this guy out as soon as possible. I actually link summoned him properly for the first time today, only for him to get hit with a Solemn Judgment. It was really depressing. Anyways, like I said, the extra deck, you can change whatever you want. You're using Pot of Prosperity / Extravagance, so like, you're probably going to lose most of this extra deck by the end of the day anyways. But, nah, I like the cards that are in here. They all do their own specific niche thing. They all work in their own specific deals, and like I said, you're running mainly level 4s in this anyways, so the ranks aren't really that big of a problem. Other than that, I recommend just tinkering around with your trap ratio, see what kind of counter traps you like to run as well. I don't have a monopoly on this deck, so like, go ham with it, enjoy yourself, and remember to smile when you tell your opponent no. Have yourselves a wonderful day, stay safe, and wear your damn masks.